Hey, music lovers and rustikas. Hope you're doing great. We'd like to wish everyone a happy Vijayadasami. And we have for you guys today an important guest on this auspicious day. So stay tuned for the video.
Guys, we have a very special episode today, but we also have a lot of up and coming stuff going on. Like we have our Halloween live stream. Be sure to go check that out. It'll be on Halloween. We're gonna talk about ourselves. We're gonna talk about what's going on. We're gonna just interview ourselves and have a good time. So yeah, tune into that.
Gives you
And
a good opportunity to ask any questions if you guys have any for us. So, yeah.
yeah, tune into that. And also, to guess who's, we want you guys to guess who the guest today, because it's a very special guest, and she relates a lot to Vijayadasami. That's the first hint. She relates directly to Vijayadasami. If you know what Vijayadasami is, she relates directly to Vijayadasami in what she does. And yeah, that's your hint. If you get it right in the comments, we'll give you a shout out. We'll give you a like in the next intro. Enjoy, everybody. Namaskaram, Nirmala Aunty.
Namaskaram, Aunty.
Namaskaram. How are you both?
We're doing fine, Auntie. How about you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Auntie. It means a lot to us that you're
It
on the
means
show.
a lot to me too, to see two young men who I have known since they were very little. இவ்வளோ பெரிய பசங்களாகி for them to grow up and do their own show is really special. And to talk to you all today is very special for me as much as it is for you. It's equally special for me. Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Yes, Auntie, we really enjoy your company, especially being as our 7th episode, and it's a very special episode. So we thank you so much.
Well, congratulations. 7 is a nice number, 7 notes. Mr. Chapu, all those beautiful things.
Yes, definitely, Auntie. So, Auntie, I mean, obviously, I'm in your class and I know what happens, but for our viewers, tell us about how COVID has affected you musically.
It's a pretty loaded question. We've all been sequestered, if I may say, being careful for what, how many months now? 7 months, definitely. That's also your 7th episode. There's another 7 for you all.
Oh.
7 months of not being able to do what you normally do is definitely something that nobody expected. And it looks like it's going to go on for a while. So it's good for all of us that we have been trained in these 7 months to get used to the new normal. As far as the COVID itself and me as a musician, the impact has been the travel factor. The impact has been not being able to see you all in class in person. The impact has been not being able to go back to India in summer to do some projects that I had already planned to do. So, Adalam, those are things that nobody thought would happen for this long. But one always learns that the human spirit finds a way around. Just like we have found ways to teach classes online. We have done some online work. I've done a good amount of online work with students that don't live in the city that I am in currently, which is right now in Minnesota. Then I have students in India when I go to Chennai or some other place. But for the others, I've always had to teach long distance in some method of long distance learning. So either it has been through Facebook Messenger or through the phones or whatever is most convenient for both the student and myself. But now we have all transitioned to classes. trying to accommodate all the students in the different time zones to come to class at a certain point of time. Kacharis have all gone online, so we have learned to adapt how to play without live audiences all the time, as opposed to என்னைக்கோ ஒரு ரெக்கார்டிங்ல போய் live audience, without a live audience member, when you play, that's a rarity. Most of us are used to being in front of people when we perform. So that has been a new normal. It has given us a lot of time to reflect on what could be done differently. Because teaching on Zoom, performing on Zoom, or doing all these things on web platforms takes a lot of learning. It's not just, you can't take the experiences of a live stage performance or teaching class to students live and just transpose it to an internet session. There's a lot of learning involved. There's a lot of in different methods we all have to adapt. So we've all had to learn. All of us have had to learn. And I think when learning is concerned, it's always a good thing. It's always going to benefit us. This knowledge we have acquired over time is going to strengthen. And so we've learned how to work with a different medium right now. And that's useful for all of us. You all are doing your schools now virtually. So I'm sure when you began in March and April, transitioning to online school, it must have been a very new experience as opposed to what you all are seeing now. So we've all been learning. So COVID has been a great leveler, if I may say so. There are so many good things that have come out of it, but the sad part is we still don't have a vaccination. So we still can't come back to the normal very easily. When that vaccination will come, I was reading a report from the World Health Organization that it's going to take some time for it to come. There are many ideas they are trying, but for it to be mass producible, workable first, and then mass producible, storable, distributable, all these factors will not make it happen in very quickly. It's going to take time. So we have to learn to live with this for a bit longer. So I guess so those are some of the things. But I do know that parents who come to class, or even for myself to travel someplace, it's a lot easier now that we don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to estimate time to drive. We don't have to worry about traffic. So people can, in the comfort of their homes, get ready for lessons or watch performances. So those are some things that we can take away as good helpful things. Does that help what I have said? Don't you feel that you are all part of this?
Definitely, Auntie. I mean, obviously, like you said, initially it was challenging for all of us to adapt to this new situation and be in this new normal. But now, like, I guess as time progresses, I mean, we all start to adapt. So it's good that we're being able to, like, see the whole world in a different way now, like not having to go to different places, but doing it all from home.
And from home, we learn to work with the other members of our family. That's another very important thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, you have to learn to, work with everybody's schedules. So people are aware of each other more. We are getting to, get some very precious family time, which is, most times it's a good thing. I know sometimes you just want to take a walk and go someplace else and just get a break from everybody at home. But I think that is something that in our busy lives that we have been leading in the past several years, at least for me, I feel I'm getting more time with my family, which is something that I cherish, which I know when we go back to normal life, whenever that happens, again, we'll be running like crazy. So we won't get to talk to each other as much as we would like to now, as we can now. We practically can. And then, of course, the challenges of working with each other's schedules. Everybody has meetings at the same time. So everybody has class. So how are we going to consume this very precious commodity called internet? So, so those kind of logistical things. But that's all I have to say. If we have good health, everything else can be handled. Health is the most important thing. And that is under the greatest threat right now. So I guess all of you know this, and I know this too, that we have to be careful. Continue to be careful. The numbers are not going down. So till that happens, we should be careful.
Definitely, Auntie.
Yeah, for sure. So, Auntie, let's go into your initial learning stages. Can you tell us about your initial gurus, your experiences with your gurus, and just your early journey in Carnatic music?
Definitely, Gana. Well, I'm sure you've heard me say this in class, Pranav, and maybe Prasid, you've heard me talk about this too. But I began studying Carnatic music when I was about 6 years old, I think. I'm not sure. Somewhere around that region, I think. I asked my parents for the backup on this. As with every family in South India, it is a tradition to inculcate fine arts in your young people. That's part of our cultural heritage, if I may say so. And I think it's true of North India too. I say South India because that's where I grew up in the early parts of my years of life. So several of my friends also were learning music or dance or painting or something like that, like fine art. In my case, I think right at the age of 2 or 3, I'm sure parents can spot, as with you boys, that I know personally how much talent I have seen in you when you were probably around those ages of 5 and 6. So the interest was there, and I really, really wanted to learn vocal music and veena. For some reason, it was even dance for that matter. I wanted to learn dance too. And we had dance in school. We had Bharatanatyam in my school, so I did learn up to 7th grade some Bharatanatyam because of having been in a school where Bharatanatyam was taught, which was really a blessing. But it was very funny. But in the school at that time when I was doing dance classes as part of curriculum, it was co-curriculum, it was not extra. I also learned to sing Western classical music. I was an alto singer, and I was part of my school choir, which was a very famous school in Chennai. In those days, I sung on the radio when I was in 2nd grade, Western classical music as an alto.
Wow.
So my journey began in a very different way. Though I was learning Carnatic music at home, in school I was learning Western classical with a piano teacher, and one of the greatest masters of the piano in Chennai, in India, one Mr. Handel Manuel, was one of my teachers for Western classical.
Wow.
So as far as Carnatic music went, so that was my school life. At home, of course, as with all South Indian parents who encourage their children to go to class, my tata used to take me for veena class and pata class when I was about 6. Tata was a very tall 6-foot person, and I would hold his hand and go to class. And in those days, I had a little tiny bribe of 10 paise, which is the Indian currency, as you know. So Tata said, if you go to class, I'll give you 10 paise. Initially, he thought he should do that because at the time of my class, all my friends would be playing in the playground. So I would be the only one holding Tata's hand and going to walk down to class, which was some distance away. So, of course, as you know very well, in India, that was the preferred form, is to walk. You walk everywhere, particularly if it's close by. You don't take a car and drive even if it's the next street. You walk. So we used to go to class, and then after a week, I told Tata, don't give me 10 paise. I really don't need it because I really like going to class. So I felt that if I took that money, that was not fair because I really enjoyed going to class. And I started working with the veena. I remember my guru giving me a full-size veena, which, as you know, is quite large for a 6-year-old, and putting cushions and pillows around me so that I can access the veena. So I couldn't, if I held the chin, I'm hearing it. This. Should we try that again?
Proceed.
Oh, I think it's gone.
Okay. All right, we can start. 3, 2.
So when I was that young and holding the smaller kodam, which is the smaller part of the veena, then I couldn't reach the other side. It was that big an instrument. So I had to actually keep it down and then play because that was the first few months I had to grow into that instrument. But my teacher did not buy me a quarter-sized veena or a half-sized veena. She said it's best you get the full-size instrument. And that is usually how I advocate for my students also now. We get the full-size instrument and everybody grows into it if they are a little bit younger. Vocal music also started at the same time. So both of them were going parallelly. Some of my gurus when I was in Chennai at that age was a lady by the name of Srimati R. Vedavalli, not the vocalist Vedavalli. She was a Vainika, this lady. And then there was another lady, Sushila, with whom I learned vocal and veena. Her sister Gauri, with whom I did vocal music. And then after a while, I started to go to Srimati. No, actually I went to Devakota Narayani Iyengar. Narayani Iyengar, one of the greatest Vainikas of those times. He was teaching classes at the Music Academy, Chennai. So my mother used to take me to classes there. And then after that, we moved because Narayanengar also retired from the Music Academy. And also it was such that I had to go to class at 4 o'clock, but I never knew when my turn would come. So sometimes I would be there till 8:30, 9. So I would come back from school, go to class, sit there, and I would never get a chance. And 10 minutes, 15 minutes is all you would get with your teacher. But I never knew when that would come. For me, it was not such a problem, but my mother had to sit with me the whole time because she couldn't leave me there and come. I was only 8 or 9 years old at that time. So she had to wait, bring me back home, and I couldn't come back home alone. It was not that close by. So then that was also one other reason. But then also Narayanengar sir retired from the Music Academy. And then I went to the very wonderful teacher, Srimati Kamala Ashwatthama, the mother of Vainika Veena Gayatri ji. And I am in touch with her. She lives in Hyderabad now. She's in her mid-80s. And I studied with her for 2 or 3 years before, or maybe 2 years, before my father was transferred to Bangalore. In Bangalore, I began studying with one Srimati G. Channamma. Very, very well-known Vainika in Bangalore, the disciple of Veena Krishnamachar, very famous gentleman, brother of Tiger Vardacharya. So thus began my induction to some. Devagowda Narayanengar himself was a very big lineage, and then Kamala Ashwatthama. At that time, I did not know that Kamala teacher was a disciple of Kalpakam Swaminathan. I did not know that, who was my guru. When I returned to Chennai from Bangalore, we came back to Srimati Kalpakam Swaminathan. While in Bangalore, I also studied with Srimati E.P. Alamelu, who was the disciple of G. Channamma. So Channamma teacher would ask me to go for some special compositions to study with her student. And E.P. Alamelu ji was performing very actively. So I played my first Panchaveena concert when I was about 12 with her. It was a group of 5 Veenas at a very big institution called Ravindra Kalakshetra in Bangalore. It's like one of the biggest venues there. And so that was one of the first programs I played with my own guru. But then by the time I was 12 or 13, they decided that they should have my Arangetram. So that is when I performed when I was in Bangalore, my first full-length concert at the Rama Anjanaya Temple in Hanumant Nagar, and followed up with a formal concert at the Indian Institute of World Culture, which is in a old area of Bangalore called Basavangudi, which is kind of the cultural heart of the city. And when I went back for some concerts recently to that part of town, I was very nostalgic because I had grown up. Bless you.
Yeah.
Bless you. I'd grown up in that part going to kacheris. Bangalore has this very big tradition of kacheris during Ramanavami, of kacheris during Ganapati Puja, which is, Vinayakar's birthday, kacheris during Navaratri. So these are all some standard traditions in Bangalore. So I got a chance once I started performing to play in every single one, all over the place.
Wow.
And our blessing for playing those concerts where they would give us, it's called Tenga Mudi Kacheri. I don't know if you boys have heard about this. Tenga Mudi Kacheri means no remuneration. They will give you the prasadam, which is the coconut, and what has been offered to the Swami, because these are all temple concerts, festival concerts. And very rarely you will get a stipend. And even if you got a stipend, it will be something very small. So for a long time, we had a lot of Tenga Tohel in our house because we would get a lot of from all these concerts. But it was such an honor. It was such an honor. And even when I was in Bangalore, I went to this very famous school in Bangalore called Baldwin Girls High School, which was also a Christian institution. In Chennai, I went to the school called Rosary Matriculation, which is where I learned my classical. So in Baldwin, they did not know. It was a very Western influenced. You had to wear a tie to school and that kind of thing, extremely Western cultural influenced private school. And so my Veena was a big revelation for them because they had a huge competition and I went to be part of some other thing. And then when they realized there was Indian classical music also, it was held in a place called St. Mark's Church. The teacher turned to me and said, Nirmala, can you bring your Veena? Because very close to my house. Can you bring your Veena and play in this competition? We don't have any representation in the classical music of Carnatic music. We have Western, but we don't have any Carnatic music representation. So I just went home and I had barely any time. They registered me right there and I went and played, I think, Nalina Kanti or something, I think. But it was my luck that one of the people who were judging and presiding over that day's event was the All India Radio Director General of Bangalore, which is a very, very big deal. He was the number 1 of AIR Bangalore. He saw me and he said, "You have to play for AIR Bangalore." And I had no clue about how these things happen. Neither did my parents know all these things. Then I asked my guru and she said, "Yes, go and play in Bangalore AIR. It's a good break. They are calling you. You should go." So that started my All India Radio career. I played my first program for them when I was in a program called Bala Jagat, which means young children. It's for children. So the world of children, that's what Bala Jagat means. And that was my first performance on All India Radio. It happened in Bangalore.
Wow.
And then, of course, we came back to Chennai and I joined Kalpakam Swaminathan ji, by which time I was already performing for 2 or 3 years. So when I went to her, I was somewhat playing some concerts, singing some programs. By this time, the veena had kind of taken over from the vocal because I was training, though I was training in both, my arangetram happened first in veena. So that became my mainstay. But then once I came back to Bangalore, I started studying vocal music from Sitaram Sharma Garu, who, as you all know, is a very famed and wonderful teacher. And then Ramanathan sir, Dr. S. Ramanathan, who has trained several of my very good friends who are leading artists today. Dr. Kalkata Krishnamurthy, who also is the guru of several well-known vocalists of today. And of course, all along I was getting inputs from Lalgudi Mama, Balchandar sir, all these very, very illustrious names in the field of Carnatic music. Then, of course, finally TRS sir, who I studied with. As long as I studied with all the other teachers, I studied with TRS sir, Sitaram Sharma sir, the most in my lessons, 20 years or more. And Kalpam teacher, of course, right up to the time she passed away, I was with her. That was almost 29 years of learning with Kalpam teacher. So that was my journey into learning from some of the best gurus. And what I find very beautiful about it is the way they have taught me was very special. In fact, when I was in Bangalore with Chennamagaru, she was already 60, 62, something like that. And I was barely 12 or 11 at that time. And she had me teach in her presence. She started to have me sit in class and demonstrate. I would go to class around 7:30 in the morning. My school was around noon. So I had a good 3 to 4 hours on days when I went to class, which was 2 or 3 times a week. She would just decide I need to come and I need to go. That's it. She would have me play with every group that came. So the office goers would come around 7. School children would come around 7:30. Then all of them would go. Then the homemakers would come after everybody has left for work and school. They would come around 9:30, 10. I would play with all of them. Finally, when she let me go home, it was about 11 o'clock. Then I would take the bus, come running home, change, eat something, rush to school, which was between 12 and 5:30. I was in the afternoon shift of that particular school. But what this taught me is the fact that teaching is a very, very beautiful way to learn. And Pranav, you know this, that when I bring my mentors to help other people, I'm saying this from experience because I've done it. So I didn't just think of this idea one fine day and said, oh, my senior students can help the other children in school. That's not how it happened. I have been through the process. I have found how valuable that information is. I have found as a teacher myself, because I've been teaching now for so many years, because I began when I was 11 or 12, kind of co-learning as I was teaching. And that became a regular thing for me now. When I came to Chennai, Kalpam teacher would have me demonstrate and teach other senior students. And so Sharma sir would have me do the same thing. In Kalapitam, I was also teaching some of my colleagues and friends. Probably because I've been at it for so long, I realized the benefits of being a teacher. And so teaching and learning are two sides of the same coin in some ways. I won't say in every way. You can't become a teacher the day you start to become a student. You absolutely can't do that. But definitely, given the right impetus, given the right direction, one can understand the benefits of teaching as you learn. But it takes a while to do that. So you all know this, that I haven't called you and said, okay, today you're teaching classes. Today, this is it. I wait for quite a while before I identify anybody as a teacher. And I say, okay, now you're ready. because you know that once you get into that space, you can't back out and say, oh, I'm not ready to teach this lesson. I'm not really good at this particular Datavarse exercise. I can't teach this one. You can't be that way. So I have to make sure that the people I assign as mentors in Nadarasa are ready to take on their job. And I think very carefully about the profile of the mentoree and the mentor when I do the assignment also, because the personalities have to be benefited from each other's inputs. So music is a lot of give. You take a lot, but there's a lot of giving, and there's no greater pleasure than giving. Bless you, Pranav. The weather's affecting you already.
You were finishing up, Auntie?
I'm done, Kata. I'm done.
Okay.
So that was my journey. That was my story of how all of it started and continues.
Amazing. So let's Kim, you talked about your journey and it was such a beautiful journey, but can we go back a little bit? We were talking about your Arangecham in Bangalore that you did in the Anjaneya temple. Can you tell us about some experiences that you had with your guru during the time of preparation for your Arangecham, and some hardships, some fun times you had during your Arangecham?
And co-artists?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. What did you say, Pranav? I missed that.
I said and co-artists that accompanied you in
Okay. Okay. So the way my gurus planned my Arangecham, I'll tell you a little bit about it. At the time, I was studying with Chennamma teacher and E.P. Alameluji. One day, I performed in an orchestra for children, and I'll tell you why this story is important, called Nadamrita. And it was held at the Bangalore Gayan Samaj, which is like the Music Academy of Chennai in Bangalore. The equivalent is the Bangalore Gayan Samaj. It was a youth orchestra with veenas and flute and several other instruments. I remember some of this. And my guru was being approached by this gentleman called A.D. Zachary, who was an All India Radio violin artist who was putting together this concert. It was a very special concert of composed material. So it was not existing material at all. It was a whole body of new compositions that we had to learn and play as a children's orchestra. So my guru asked me to go and participate in this because she was asked to get some recommendations. So I went to play. Now, Zachary uncle, that was the first time I met him, and we did the whole concert. And that was my first and only introduction to Zachary uncle. A few days after that, Pranav might have heard this story from me. There was a knock on our door, and it was Zachary uncle. And he said to me, last night I had this dream. I need to teach Nirmala this one composition called Namaste Paradevate in the Ragam Devaranji. And it's a rare Dikshatar composition. Now, Zachary uncle is a Dikshatar specialist. It's very interesting, this whole thing. Just to let you know, Zachary uncle was a Christian. Okay? But he was a Dikshatar devotee. He was very fond of Muthuswami Dikshatar. He was a violinist in Carnatic music at the All India Radio in Bangalore. And I only met him because of this one program. And he had this thought in his mind that he wanted to teach me this song. My parents, of course, called my Vadyar, Srimati Channamma, who already knows Zachary uncle, and said, this is what Zachary uncle is saying. And my guru was saying, okay, that's fine. He's a Dikshatar specialist. She should learn. And not only did he teach me Dikshatar, he taught me some really interesting compositions. Veera Vasantam, there is another beautiful composition in the Ragam Veera Vasantam. Then he taught me Ananda Amrita Karshani, which is another version I have from my own guru, Kalpakam Swaminathan. But he gave me the first introduction. He taught me a beautiful composition of Dikshatar called Manasa Guru Guha in the Ragam Ananda Bhairavi. It's very, very interesting, very tricky, and a beautiful composition. So thus began my relationship with Zachary uncle, and it was Zachary uncle who suggested that I should have my Arangecham. The suggestion came from him. Of course, he went and consulted Chennamma teacher, and then Chennamma teacher said, yes, please go ahead, prepare. So Zachary uncle arranged this Mridangam artist called Ravi Shankar, who now lives in Malaysia, who's a young man also. So I did not have star artists sitting with me on stage. I had another youngster like me who played Mridangam, and one of my own guru's vocal students who played the Tanpura, and that was my concert. Zachary uncle did most of the planning for the concert. I would go back, refresh all my knowledge with Chennamma teacher. It was particularly interesting because I worked with two different teachers for the Arangetram. But I never ever felt pulled in any different direction, which is why it is very, very important to have a great relationship with your gurus when it's time for Arangetram. Arangetram also means you're stepping up to the plate for the first time, going to either perform a 2.5 hour concert. The needs of playing a 2.5 hour concert are very different from playing even a 1 hour concert. Your stamina has to be built up. You have to sit there for 2.5 hours and belt out each piece with the same level of accuracy and proficiency and soul and carry your audience with you. That's an experience that I think is one of the most precious experiences in everybody's life. So the challenges were definitely there. First, to sit for 2.5 hours with full focus, concentration. I won't say, I can't remember, to be honest with you, any difficulties. They helped me plan the program. And if you ask me, what is your first Kachary program? I'm sorry, boys, I don't know. But I do know that it was very pleasant. And they took care of inviting all the people. But it was in a Kovil, the first Kacheri, and then the second one followed up immediately, which was a more formal sit down at a venue, in a proper Kacheri hall. But the Kovil was very nice because it was some special occasion at the Kovil and they had this Kacheri as their engagement concert. So it was very informal in that sense. And I still remember somebody coming to me at the end of the concert and saying, we were ready for at least two more songs. Why did you finish? And I didn't know any better because that's what my guru's plan was. And he had told me finish these songs and she had told me the same thing. So I finished those songs and it was over. Then Zachary uncle said, the mark of a good concert is when they want to hear one or two more, not when are they going to finish the concert. So that was a very valuable lesson for me, that less is more. So I did know more songs. I definitely knew a few more tukadas to play. But I did not play it. I ended the concert and said thank you. And that was a very valuable experience for me, that you need to sing a kacheri in such a way that they want more. People want to hear more of you. So that was a very valuable experience. So the kacheri experience, Prasid, was wonderful, was a good learning process, but I can't remember more than this much, except the fact that less is more. I took away something from that kacheri.
Amazing.
Wow.
And Namaste Paradevate, we're all missing because everybody used to perform it at the temple during the Vijayadasami days. So
yes,
we're all missing that. We'll all be missing that this year.
We actually played it in class yesterday because yesterday was the first day of Navratri. I asked everyone, if those that know Namaste Paradevate in our school, to join and sing and play as much as they know. So in fact, Nadarasa has been given a kind of a instruction that over the Navratri, everybody will play and sing one song every day. So that is our hope, that way we will brush through all our kritis and end up with one vocal. If you're a vocal and veena student, then you have two kritis. It'll also force us to think about this great gift we've all been given in our lives. Music is a gift, and both of you and yours truly, we are very lucky. God chooses, the universe chooses who gets this gift. So you can go all you want behind something like music, but the music has to decide to come and stay with you. That is the one big lesson I have learned in my life, that this is a gift that I have received. And it is a very precious gift. I cannot live without it, is another matter. But the recognition of this gift makes you want to improve. I mean, you're not going to have a gift and then bury it in the garden, are you? You're going to do something with it. You're going to make it grow into a full-fledged tree if it's a seed. You're going to make it something very special, right? That is one thing I have learned in my life, is that I owe it to those that gave me this gift, that I need to give it back in double form or triple form, or at least make an effort to improve with what has been given.
Definitely, Auntie.